Okay, Abusia, I have former Chief Justice ATUGUBA asanso aba abɔnten bio aba abɛkasa. Yɛdi kan ɛde ne ho nsɛm ne bi abrɛ mo ɛfa ɛyɛ the removal of former Chief Justice Torkorno. Na Abusia, ɛnɛ ne nsɛm a ɔde to dwa ɛfa ɛyɛ the crime ɛkyerɛ sɛ former Chief Justice Torkorno akɔse to the state. Abusia, ɛyɛ saa ne illegal travel no ɛkyɛ sɛ ɔde ne nsa bɔ ɔman ne sika mu ɔne n'abusuafoɔ ɛde tu kwan mmerɛ mu no sɛ woyɛ Chief Justice wɔ ɔman mu na ɔne w'abusuafoɔ bɛtu kwan a ɔmfa wo nsa nkɔmbɔ ɔman ne sika mu, and ɔkɔ nso a ɛyɛ sɛ ɔde state security ɛdi w'akyi. Wamfa state security end n'akyi ɔde ɔno ane family member ɛna di n'akyi. Na wei ɛna former Chief Justice ATUGUBA ɛkyerɛ sɛ obi a ɔbɛkɔmite anaasɛ ɔde ne nsa bɛbɔ ɔman ne sika mu biara no, saa nipa korɔ no yɛ prosecute no. Enti no former Chief Justice Torkorno ɔmbro mbra so ne nyinaa yɛ ka yɛbɛka sɛ the law is the law. Enti ɛyɛ sɛ yɛde mbra ne to baabi a ɛyɛ sɛ da mɔm yɛnkɔ na yɛnkɔ tie nsɛm a ɛkɔ so. Unsubscribe ya subscribe, like na share ma afoforɔ nso ɛnsa ntumi ɛnka bi. Aha ɛyɛ Ghana Politics Avenue so medamase.
It takes time to move from one mindset to another. I see when something looks ingrained, deeply enunciated and implanted into a system, it takes time to modify it, to look at possible changes brought about by local legal enactments or constitution.
Right. We'll come back.
Yeah.
Yes, please go on.
Yes. So that was in Akroma's era. The famous treason trial.
Right.
Adamafio, when they were not convicted, Akroma abolished. I mean, he passed and nullifying the judgment and set up a special court and retried these people. And Supreme Court judges, some of them commented that the first panel was sound, but the second panel was malleable. You see, I mean, judges were making those comments.
Right.
I quoted some of these things in my judgments. And so you can see what caused malleability in the second panel. Must be some political element. So it was there. Bawumia came. You remember you are too young. Apollo, was it 5, 6, 8 or something? When transitional provisions in the 69 Constitution gave him powers to dispense with persons appointed under the NLC, offices created by them. He dismissed somebody who was appointed in 1958, Deputy General Manager of GNTC, Salah. He took the case to court, and there were all kinds of maneuvers. But those judges were firm. Although sometimes they also went off board a bit. For example, they were trying to replace Apalu and Sowa from the bench. In the case of Apalu, the allegation was that he was a close friend of the plaintiff Salah, which couldn't be proved. Somebody even gave evidence of their association, which proved to be entirely false. But in the case of Sowa, his brother-in-law was also dismissed. And he came to complain to him, you see. And I think he mentioned to the Attorney General, but he was on the panel.
Okay.
I mean, he shouldn't have sat on that case.
Right.
But it didn't actually matter. Their judgment, to me, was the correct one.
Correct one. Okay.
But Buzia, you remember the famous broadcast, no court, no court, when they gave that judgment. And then the way they appointed the Supreme Court justices, that was the first time we had this type of Supreme Court. They hoisted junior judges over and above Azukrab and Co.
All right.
Yes, and brought somebody who was the equivalent of a circuit court judge
To the Supreme Court.
to be Chief Justice over and above all these things. So you can see, if that's not politics, I don't know what it can be.
So it didn't start today.
It didn't start today, but the intensity of it, where it has gotten to, particularly under the last administration in this country, is unprecedented.
In terms of promotion or interference in the process.
Well, there's no smoke without fire.
Right.
But if the public can call a court unanimous FC, you know, why do you think in a case that goes there will go? I mean, either the judges are playing ball or they are being interfered with.
But you also remember that since the now dismissed Chief Justice was suspended,
Yes.
and then his lordship Justice Bawumia was appointed.
Yes.
Every case that went before them, it's gone against even the sacked Chief Justice.
Yeah.
And some will say that the scale has changed.
Yeah.
Nothing really in terms of the format. It's almost the same. It's like a payback, if you like.
Oh, well, maybe. Maybe you have to read those judgments and then see whether they are sustainable.
Okay.
Objectively. And I can tell you that some of these people complaining about these things, if you look at the post-PNDC era, when Ghana reverted to constitutional rule, what did the then opposition say? Same MPP. They said, well, they wouldn't even take part in the parliamentary elections, but they would practice the opposition through the courts. And they went to court on a chain of constitutional cases and won all of them.
Right.
We go through 93 to 94, bonus 1 and 2, Ghana law reports. You see a lot of them there, consecutively. But after some time, then of course, it wasn't quite like that.
Okay.
So, and those decisions, even though consecutively in favor of the opposition at that time, to me, were legally sustainable. Legally sustainable. After some time, when they kept on pressing, some of them were not as and they ruled against.
Right.
That is it. You know.
I guess maybe we can spend some time to talk about.
So sometimes a certain trend is sustainable on the merits, but if it is not sustainable on the merits by honest, legal, competent people, then the system is not correct.
Okay. Yeah. We'll come to deal whether with this new change that we are experiencing, it should lead to reforms in the judiciary and what your proposals will be. But first, let me start off with the recommendation of the committee.
Yeah.
According to the communication that went up,
Yes.
Torkorno's removal was mainly based on a petition dated March 17, presented by one Daniel Ofori on the grounds of misconduct and stated misbehavior After the full inquiry, the committee submitted its report to the president on Monday and made several recommendations for it to be removed. In the opinion of the committee, the travel expenses which Justice Torkorno heaped on the judicial service when she traveled on holiday in September 2023, fled to Tanzania and with her husband and second to the United States of America with her daughter, together with the payment of per diem to the spouse and daughter of the Chief Justice, constituted unlawful expenditure of public funds. Some are suggesting that this particular charge, perhaps you should have been surcharged to refund the money. It is not enough to use this as yardstick to recommend her removal. What do you say to this?
Well, it's a possible view, but that doesn't necessarily make it wrong to remove her on that account. Because accountability, probity, and transparency are the cornerstones of our Constitution. And it's the judiciary that is to enforce these values. Yes. So if the judiciary itself is found wanting as to them, it's serious enough. People have been jailed for misapplication of funds, causing financial loss, these things, So I don't see how similar conduct, when it affects lesser individuals or persons not as exalted as EJ and so forth, they can be subjected to serious, consequences, even criminal sanctions.
But is it strong enough to cause the removal of the head of the judiciary just because she traveled with her husband and daughter? And I'm sure that if this was put before and said that you should refund the money, she would have willingly done so.
Well, the question is, why should that happen? And was the amount trivial? It wasn't trivial. And you might as well say, why should others who indulge in similar acts be criminally even prosecuted and jailed? And someone who should know far, far better is the head of the accountability system, transparency, should just be handled as if it's nothing. Yes.
And those who are in support of the committee recommendations are clearly falls in the category of abuse of power.
Yeah, sure.
You think that is so?
Sure, why not? Why not? I mean, the unjustified use of public funds, not to negligible extent. I mean, it's not. Now look at it. Assuming this state of affairs were not discovered, it would have continued. If this person is there for how many years? I think she has 8 years or more to her credit, and it could have increased. No, I just don't know. I don't like double standards. That's my cast of mind. What is good for the goose should be good for the gander. I know that at that apex level, okay, maybe sometimes some flexibility can be allowed.
Right, because some say that as Chief Justice, this shouldn't be beyond her reach. I mean, on holidays, you are a former Supreme Court. I'm sure you were entitled to some privileges.
I can tell you, at our time, Supreme Court judges were entitled to, I think, a maximum of, was it 300 cedis or something? Or was it even 150? And the Chief Justice at that time, Judge Wood, had a slightly higher, but it wasn't anything to write home.
300 cedis for what?
I mean, per diem.
Yeah, if you should travel outside the country.
Yes.
And were you to travel
I think
with
it was even, I think that was the maximum also. It was about 75 cedis a day or some small sum. And I remember that when Georgina Wood became CJ, for a long time she complained that she was traveling and she was cash strapped. I mean, the conditions were. And Judicial Council looked into it and raised her per diem to $1,000. Yeah.
And 300 Ghana cedis or dollars?
Dollars.
To 1,000 Ghana cedis?
Yes.
Okay.
No, $1,000.
Okay.
$1,000. The rest of us also were looking forward. I think ours was one to something. We were also thinking that they would adjust us. It didn't happen. So that was it. She couldn't probably have just said, well, I'm the Chief Justice, so when I'm traveling, anything can be given me from public funds, and I'm happy with it. And I go, she put the matter before the Judicial Council, and it was debated, and that amount was voted for her. So I didn't think that she felt she was free to be given any amount and she could just walk away with it or ask for any amount. You know?
There are also issues of transfer, which the committee describes as, illegal transfers. There's mention of one Baden, a staff of the Judicial Service. It says her conduct amounted to misbehavior. There's also recommendations to the Supreme Court of Ghana. Perhaps if you can educate us why you think that these are enough grounds.
Recommendations?
Yes.
To the Supreme Court?
Right.
Or for appointment? Okay. That Baden or what? Baden case. Yes, what was it about?
The committee says that without fear or favor, the Chief Justice unjustifiably breached the provision in Article 295 of the Constitution in the way and manner she transferred one Mr. Baden, a staff of the Judicial Service. The committee indicates that it was of the view that the conduct of Justice Torkorno falls squarely in the category of conduct described as stated misbehavior at Article 146 of the 1990 Constitution. The committee is also of the opinion that the action and conduct of Justice Torkorno fell within the meaning and categories of stated misbehavior. And then there's also allegation of request in letter to former President Akuffo during his tenure for the appointment of more justices to the Supreme Court bench and a recommendation and provision of certain names for consideration for that appointment. The committee said Justice Torkorno, however, cannot lay claim to ignorance of the nomination process and procedure, notwithstanding the fact that the process and procedure was not spelled out in the Constitution but case law.
Yes, the Baden case. What were the sections surrounding his transfer?
Yes, transfer according to the committee's report.
Yes, transfer from where to where?
From the Judicial Service to another place.
To another place. Well, I don't know the facts surrounding that transfer. If the transfer was not based on justifiable facts, there was abuse of power. Oh, certainly, victimization. Oh, yes. If somebody is doing his work well, why do you move him out? At our time, there was the administrative officer of the Judicial Service, one Akuffo. He subsequently went to the bench as a circuit judge, then High Court judge. I don't know whether he reached Court of Appeal, but I think he should have retired. He was transferred out of the judiciary by the president,
right,
on the recommendation of the Chief Justice. But the president had no such power. It was the Chief Justice consultation with the Judicial Council also. I was a member of that. We reversed him. And, actually lambasted his act.
But in this
I'm
case,
coming.
Okay.
That one was just... There were no facts to show that he was being victimized. But even there, we did not spare we read Kwega JS's strictures against the Jews. In that case, Akroma was Attorney General. I think should be 2000 Supreme Court Ghana Law Report also. You can see it. But for me to comment on whether this transfer was justified, I have to know
the
facts.
circumstances.
Yes.
But again, is the Chief Justice completely barred from recommending people to be appointed to the Supreme Court?
No, yeah. Oh, okay, you finished the baby
Yes.
matter. Barred from recommending.
Yes.
No. In fact, I wrote a judgment on this appointment process. Lead judgment in Amegache and others, the Attorney General, where they said, the president ought to have done the appointments strictly in accordance with the recommendations by the Judicial Council and in the order and merit therein stated, you know. And I, in the course of the judgment, had to consider the appointment process. And I said by convention, nominations to the Supreme Court or to the bench generally, but okay, let's do the Supreme Court. Can come from Attorney General, from the Chief Justice, or the Bar Association. Yeah, so Chief Justice can nominate. Yes. Fellow judges, you know, in the regions who have seen the competence and honesty of certain lawyers can recommend them to the Chief Justice.
So why is he being crucified for this?
No, it depends on the type. Okay, let me give an example. I've given that example several times.
Okay.
Geu.
Right.
It's a man from High Court. I don't think he was there for even 3 years. What judgments of his are there in the law reports? This was a man who was a parliamentary candidate for Ho in the 2020 elections.
On the ticket of the MPP.
Of the MPP. And he went to the High Court. I don't think he was there for 3 years. No judgment of his, I think, in the law reports. Straight to Supreme Court. I mean, even as a layman, do you think that that's a sound exercise of discretion? I mean, Supreme Court is the heartbeat of the judiciary. Its decisions are binding on all the courts, not everybody. I mean, when there were senior judges already on the High Court of Appeal, some very senior legal practitioners practice extensively. I mean, that's face facts. These things annoy me sometimes. Let's just look at the facts and apply honesty to their assessment. You get the result for yourself very easily. Very easily.
And then the reaction to this?
Now, okay. Apart from that, look at most of the elevations. I don't think most of them were the senior justices of the High Court or Court of Appeal. They were not. Some of them were very competent, and I don't mind. If somebody is very competent and is not a senior, you can go to Supreme Court. It's the competence that matters. Otherwise, seniority, because you are more experienced, and not just raw seniority with a delivery.
Right.
You know, and I don't think that if you apply these criteria to the elevations that were done under her stewardship, in particular, I mean, you can be satisfied. So
what could have been the motivation for some of these elevations, as you talk of? Is it political? And if that is so, then that's a very dangerous precedent we've set.
Oh, sure. Well, it's for everybody to guess. If there's no sound reason for doing something, whether it's political or otherwise, it's unsound. Huh? And the unsoundness in this context, you look at the spate of decisions that were always unanimously in favor of one side. I mean, you can't just see. There should be no difficulty about this.
Okay.
No.
Let me try and get some education here. So, the committee had 5 petitions to consider.
Yes.
And then the committee's recommendation is based on 1. And in the statement, the chairperson of the committee, His Lordship, makes the point that they did not go into the other 2 petitions. The counsel for the dismissed Chief Justice, Mr. Ukweotu, makes the point that his team, they were asked to put together their written closing remarks. Even before they would put it together, the committee had met the president and made their recommendations to him. It's like he makes the point that perhaps everything had been predetermined.
Let's see. Have you see the journalists should be investigative? I mean, have you contacted the Judicial Secretary to find out or the chairman whether this really happened? That they just decided not to wait for their submission. I don't know whether that. Have you ascertained that fact?
Well, they've been tight-lipped after they presented their report, so they've not been able to provide their version of the allegations against them.
Okay. Now, but because these things are confidential and so forth. But if this kind of castigation is made, I don't think it's out of the way to, assuming it's not true, to straighten this.
But why would the committee go into just 1 petition when they had 3 to consider? And then base their recommendation on just the 1 petition filed by Daniel Ofori.
Now, you said there were 3.
Right.
Like court cases, they can consolidate them and beat evidence simultaneously, in respect of all of them, and then at the end give decisions on each of them, or they could take them one after the other. And I mean, which law says that they must, if there are more than 1 petitions, they must consider them necessarily at the same time? Which law? Do you know that law?
No.
Yeah. And, so, and it depends on the nature of the petitions. Maybe one has more grounds, or one.
Okay, abusia wene ensema ekoso ewo political highway so former Chief Justice ATUGUBA na yetene nkase odisa ensem no tudwa ede amaye yebedamase se moje pene kokoti za ensem we ede amaye aha Ghana Politics Avenue. So unsubscribe, subscribe, like, and share my afofron so ensa into me and kabi. And don't forget to click on the notification bell so never any updates be able drop piano also onsa ebe to me aka medamase.